I like to dress up all the time.
Happy October, everyone. In honor of the spooky season, I am ranking 13 of the best and worst animated Halloween specials from F tier to S tier, with S tier being a king-sized candy bar and F tier being a loose handful of candy corn. We all have our favorite Halloween cartoons, so now it's time to determine which are the best of the best and which are the worst of the worst. But before that, make sure to like and subscribe and leave a hype, since I guess that's still a feature. And for those of you wondering, yes, I am still working on my ranking video for every episode of Arthur. I've decided to break it up into season-by-season videos to make things a bit more manageable. Season 1 of Arthur has 60 episodes alone, so I appreciate your patience. Let's not waste any more time and delve right in. This video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you. Make sure to subscribe and help get this video to 10,000 likes.
I don't want to dress up anymore.
So yeah, if you saw my most recent video, then you already know how I feel about Daniel Tiger's dress-up day. It's one thing to have your characters be whiny little brats the entire time, but if you're going to make a Halloween special, then actually make it about Halloween. We spend the first half of the special watching Katarina take forever to pick a costume, and then when we finally get to the Halloween festivities, we're treated to 11 minutes of subpar slop, where instead of tricks and treats, the kids go home with a bag full of stickers and fruit. Like I said in my video, if you tried pulling this crap in my neighborhood, your house would be covered ass to end with toilet paper and rotten eggs. It's not even that Daniel Tiger himself is that bad here, but this version of Halloween is just so boring. And if there's one thing Halloween should not be, it's boring. I get that Daniel Tiger is made for younger kids, but I can't imagine any child watching this episode and then getting excited to go trick-or-treating. It's ironic how someone who lives in the land of make-believe could be so unimaginative. It should be a surprise to nobody that I am placing Daniel Tiger's dress-up day in the F tier of animated Halloween specials. I can only imagine how bad their Christmas special must be.
I missed you, DW.
Oh great, we're talking about Flash animated Arthur again. Actually, I kinda like this one. I made a video about this movie last year with a bunch of my YouTube friends, and I was surprised at just how much fun this Halloween special was. Arthur has had Halloween episodes before, but those tended to focus on just a small group of characters for 11 minutes. Here, we get to see how everyone in Elwood celebrates the spooky season. The hour-long movie is structured like a mini anthology, so we get a bunch of fun spooky stories featuring all the main kids, though the best story has to be the one where Arthur slowly loses his mind as he's tormented by this demon doll from hell. Even when it turns out DW is behind the whole thing, it's fun to see Arthur turn the tables on her so she can get her comeuppance. That is until she ruins everything by snitching to her parents.
Arthur put a creepy doll in my bed and scared me really bad.
I also appreciate that the stories are woven together, so it gives the special a good sense of pacing. It kinda reminds me of Trick or Treat in that sense, if that movie was made with shitty Flash animation. Yeah, sadly the animation is the main thing holding back this special from being truly great. You can tell they're really trying to create this creepy atmosphere, but the animation is just so stiff. You can tell they need more movement and emotion that the animation just won't allow. But if you can get past the stilted looking animation, I think fans of Arthur will find a lot to enjoy about this special. For that reason, I am ranking Arthur and the Haunted Treehouse in the B tier. If this special had come out 10 years earlier, it would be just as iconic as Arthur's Perfect Christmas.
I got a rock.
What can I say about The Great Pumpkin that Peanuts fans haven't already said for the past 6 decades? This nearly 60-year-old Charlie Brown Halloween special has become a staple of the holiday season. Is it the best animated? No. Is it the best acted? Hell no. But it's so unapologetically charming that it's no surprise that kids and adults still watch it today. It's nuts to think that this special came out 2 full years before Night of the Living Dead. Zentennial, what did you think about it?
I feel like The Great Pumpkin is just one of those animations that everyone has seen. I've never met anyone in my life who hasn't seen it. Everything about it is just so quaint and sweet. The animation is rudimentary, the kids' voice acting is so awkward, I love it. I really can't think of a better way to animate the actual crude, sketchy artwork of the Peanuts comic strips. It's perfect this way, and it's why I prefer the earlier specials to the later ones. But the best thing about the Peanuts specials overall, to me, is the music. God, I love the music. Vince Guaraldi is the main composer and pianist for the special. It was my introduction to him and made me a lifelong fan of his. He's done a ton of fantastic work. I'd highly recommend it to anyone who likes the Great Pumpkin soundtrack. There was actually a lost media case related to the music for quite a while. The original masters for a lot of the songs composed for the special were thought to be lost for decades, which wasn't uncommon for tapes back in the day, until 2022, where a bunch of them were discovered in Lee Mendelssohn's film archive. They were apparently in boxes labeled Big Pumpkin Charlie Brown, and I just thought that was funny. But I'm really glad we found them, for the sake of both music and animation preservation.
Well said, my friend. Something I noticed in my latest rewatch is that Linus is a total jerk throughout the special. Don't believe me? Let's review. Linus Van Pelt spends the entirety of the holiday annoying his friends and family with his stupid Halloween superstitions. He absolutely destroys Charlie Brown's leaf pile after the poor boy spends God knows how long putting it together, and couldn't even let his sister carve a pumpkin without screaming bloody murder.
You didn't tell me you were gonna kill it.
He blindly worshipped an imaginary pumpkin deity that he himself created and convinced a little girl to waste her entire Halloween sitting in a pumpkin patch. When he finally got called out on his bullshit, he was too stubborn to admit he was wrong and gave himself hypothermia waiting up until 4 in the morning. And even when Linus was completely proven wrong, this blanket-toting bitch boy still had the nerve to chew out his best friend.
Just wait till next year, Charlie Brown.
F you, Linus. So yeah, even though I have my own personal issues with this special, I think we all know that The Great Pumpkin is an S-tier Halloween cartoon.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo?
So depending on when you grew up, everyone has their own favorite iteration of Scooby-Doo. For me, What's New Scooby-Doo is my Scooby-Doo. I know there are better Scooby-Doo shows and even better Scooby-Doo Halloween specials, but this is the version I grew up with, so it holds a special place in my heart. The episode revolves around Scooby and the gang spending Halloween with Velma's relatives when they discover a band of evil scarecrows have come to life and are terrorizing the town. Well, either them or Batman. Oh, and also the band Kiss is there.
So who do I talk to about getting paid?
This was actually my introduction to Kiss's music, which seems fitting seeing how the band members look like Scooby-Doo villains. I think Shaggy puts it best when he says Halloween is meant to be the fun kind of scary, and that's exactly what this special is, the fun kind of scary. It's spooky, but never takes itself too seriously. And Velma's cousin Marcy is delightfully bitchy, as she spends the whole episode throwing shade at Daphne and trying to thirst trap Fred.
I'm 18, able to legally vote.
Admittedly, the twist villain is pretty obvious, and their motive for trying to ruin Halloween doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you actually think about it. But all the same, this episode is spooky, funny, and silly in all the ways a Scooby-Doo Halloween special should be. They even brought back the cartoon's infamous laugh track just for this episode.
You're killing my mystery machine!
My buddy King News Me just did a full review for this special, so make sure to check out his channel to see just how wild this episode is. Me personally, I'm going to put a Scooby-Doo Halloween in the A tier. The only thing keeping it from S tier is that it doesn't include a scene of Velma getting dragged to hell where she belongs.
Let's go scare somebody.
Before you say anything, yes, I know there's a stop-motion special. Yes, I hear it's really good. No, I have not seen it. The original SpongeBob Halloween special is a great example of how combining two stories can make for an even better watch. Taken separately, these episodes are great on their own, but together, they make for the perfect Halloween double feature. The first installment, Scaredy Pants, has a very relatable premise. SpongeBob is sick of being the butt of everyone's Halloween pranks, so he plans to get his revenge on the entire town by dressing up as the ghost of the Flying Dutchman. It's such a perfectly petty scheme that goes completely off the rails when the real Flying Dutchman shows up to steal everyone's souls. Not only does SpongeBob get his chance to be the hero, but this has to be my favorite what the fuck ending to any SpongeBob episode ever, where it's revealed he shaved off all his skin, leaving only his exposed brain. This was my first exposure to body horror, and I'm honestly surprised Nickelodeon was allowed to show this in a children's cartoon, though in hindsight, it seems rather tame compared to SpongeBob's later years. I Was a Teenage Gary is also a fun send-up of cheesy old monster movies, where Squidward's pet-sitting job results in him and SpongeBob getting turned into snail monsters. It's nice to see an episode of SpongeBob that doesn't treat pet abuse as a big joke. We get some more great body horror with SpongeBob who, even as a giant mutant snail, still prioritizes annoying his next-door neighbor. I also love how the episode has no real resolution. I'm assuming the effects of the snail plasma eventually wear off, but SpongeBob and Squidward are just resigned to be snails for the rest of their lives. I think it only makes sense to put SpongeBob's Halloween special in the S tier. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on these episodes, check out my video on the scariest episodes of SpongeBob.
I wish things were real and real scary.
Scary Godparents is a classic example of Fairly OddParents in its prime. The episode takes the simple idea of kids wanting to be scary on Halloween and cranks it up to 1,000,000%. Timmy and his friends keep getting snubbed while trick-or-treating, so he wishes for everyone to be real scary. His fairies instead make everyone's costumes real and scary, so now all the kids have turned into monsters and are wreaking havoc on the town. And if that wasn't crazy enough, some of the kids' costumes trigger an alien invasion, where we get an epic Transformers-style battle. It's absolute insanity at its absolute best. The episode proves that you don't need a lot of time to make the most of a really good premise. The episode moves at a brisk pace while still getting in a bunch of funny one-liners and sight gags. It's also nice to see Vicky get her just desserts, literally. This may not be the best or most popular episode of Fairly OddParents, but it's everything that I want out of a Halloween special. Timmy Turner has more than earned his spot in the A tier of animated Halloween specials.
Frankenstein?
Frankenstein.
So here, we have another story where the kids get turned into monsters based on their costumes. Only instead of wishing to be monsters, Jimmy Neutron creates a machine that turns you into a monster monster. Well, not on purpose. The machine is just supposed to give you a cool costume. It isn't until after that Jimmy realizes his friends are turning into real monsters. Wow, another one of Jimmy's inventions backfired. What a surprise. So my biggest issue with this special is the pacing. The episode is 22 minutes long and it really drags. We don't get the monster reveal until halfway through the episode, and then the back half is just Jimmy trying to clean up his own mess like always. Some of the monster designs are cool, and Jimmy's final form as Cthulhu is straight up terrifying, but Fairly Odd Parents was able to get twice as much mileage out of this premise. For me, the best part of this episode is when Jimmy's dad accidentally turns himself into Frankenstein's monster, and takes his wife as his monstrous bride. Personally, I think Judy is kind of into it. There are much scarier episodes of Jimmy Neutron that make for a much better Halloween watch. The special isn't bad, it just doesn't leave a lasting impression. For that reason, I'm gonna put Jimmy Neutron in the B tier.
Leave it to Billy to destroy Halloween night.
So back when my family first got cable, I wasn't allowed to watch Cartoon Network because my parents thought the shows were too crass and crude. Lucky for me, there was the Cartoon Network website, which posted full episodes of all their shows, so I could still get my fill of all the unadulterated nonsense this network had to offer. And that's how I would describe Billy and Mandy's Jacked Up Halloween. Unadulterated nonsense. This episode has a lot of silly, spooky, and genuinely horrifying imagery sprinkled throughout that makes for a fun Halloween treat. Jack-O-Lantern is one of the more memorable one-off villains on the show, and Wayne Knight does a great job bringing him to life.
I can't even go to the ding-dong grocery store to buy pudding!
It's funny to think that Jack is basically an internet troll who got permanently cancelled by death. I also like the fake-out ending, where at first it looks like Mandy is going to get the upper hand on Jack, but what actually saves the day is Irwin home aloning himself so hard that Jack ends up laughing himself to death. And even in death, the poor bastard still can't catch a break.
I still got it!
This is another fun Halloween special that feels right at home in the A tier.
You mean we have to stay here all night?
And people accuse Toy Story 4 of being the first unnecessary Toy Story follow-up. Released 3 years after Toy Story 3, Toy Story of Terror was a half-hour TV special that featured Woody and the gang getting trapped in a spooky motel, where the toys start disappearing one by one as they suspect that something is watching them in the shadows.
Where's Potato Head?
And so it begins.
Now, on paper, this sounds like a really fun concept for a spooky little Toy Story adventure, but I am not kidding when I say that this is the most boring, convoluted, unnecessary cash grab I've ever seen from Pixar, and I've seen Cars 2 and Monsters University. The special bills itself as the scariest thing Toy Story has ever made, but the only creepy thing about it is the sign for the motel. Why the hell are they luring kids to this motel? At first, I thought this was just a play on those marketing gimmicks you see at restaurants where they let kids eat for free. Like, obviously a child isn't going to check into a motel by themselves, so the parent is still paying full price regardless. But once we find out what's actually going on, the special goes from mediocre to just plain stupid. It turns out the motel manager is using his pet lizard to steal toys from his guests and then sell them on eBay. He discovers Woody is a super rare and valuable toy, and oh, so this is just Al again from Toy Story 2. Only Al's scheme actually made sense. The dude scoured thrift stores and yard sales to find rare toys. This creep just waits for kids to check into his motel and hopes they have valuable toys he can steal. There are other annoying bits, like the hedgehog constantly reminding the other toys that they're in a horror movie by listing every horror movie cliche right before it happens. Also, when the hell did they establish Buzz can glow in the dark? And if he can, why isn't he glowing in these other scenes where the room is clearly dark? I also don't like how they weaponize Jessie's PTSD. Throughout the special, we're reminded how Jessie doesn't like confined spaces because of how she was abandoned by her first kid. When Woody is about to get shipped off, the other toys badger Jessie into hiding in a box so she can sneak onto the truck and set him free. This is such an uncomfortable and unnecessarily cruel thing to do to someone who clearly doesn't need anyone trying to turn their trauma into a superpower. This special isn't awful enough to be worthy of F tier, it's just the boring kind of bad. So I'm gonna leave this one to rot in the D tier. The only part that got a chuckle out of me is when the manager tries to run from the police and then ends up instantly crashing the police car.
Can I please go trick-or-treating with Susie? Please, please, please!
You'll get nothing and like it.
So I think it's fair to say the Rugrats peaked with their second movie, Rugrats in Paris. To be clear, the show didn't nosedive in quality after the movies, it just sort of plateaued. The show shifted from being about the babies and the parents to mostly being about the babies, as the series went from being a show for families to a show primarily for kids. That's all to say, Curse of the Werewolf isn't bad, it just came out in a time where the Rugrats weren't as groundbreaking as they used to be. I covered this episode a while back, and there I pointed out just how insufferable Angelica is as a pigtailed princess. She preys on Chucky's fears by making him think he's going to turn into a werewolf, and then sneaks into a grown-up haunted house, only to get scared shitless. When Chucky saves her ungrateful ass, she thanks him by trying to steal his Halloween candy. Luckily, she gets put in her place by her mother, but not before crying that the babies ruined her Halloween. This episode is fine enough on its own, but doesn't really stand out as a Halloween classic, so I'm gonna put it in the B tier, for babies. So I remember seeing commercials for Disney's Sleepy Hollow on a lot of VHS tapes as a kid, but I didn't see the full special proper until I was well into high school. The trailers made it look like a goofy little comedy, so I went into it expecting a goofy little comedy. And for the first part of the film, that's exactly what I got. I definitely thought it was good, but I wasn't sure why everyone was telling me this was one of the best Disney films of all time. But once I got to the last third, it all clicked into place for me. This went from being the silliest Disney cartoon I'd ever watched to the scariest horror film I had ever seen. And as memorable as the last 10 minutes are, the rest of the movie is just as good. We spend a good chunk of time seeing Ichabod as this giant goofball who's even kind of a player. Yeah, the romance subplot is bullshit, but even the movie acknowledges that it's bullshit. The movie has plenty of fun, wacky moments, but when it needs to be scary, it locks in. For me, the eeriest part of the whole film is when Ichabod thinks he's being followed, only to find a pair of cattails thumping on a log, which feels like the calm right before the storm. This moment of him laughing with his horse still sends shivers down my spine. You know something bad is just around the corner, but the movie tries to trick you into thinking everything might be okay. Then the actual horseman shows up and all hell breaks loose. I love how they still incorporate physical humor even when Ichabod is running for his life. It manages to be wild and energetic without undermining the horror. This is easily the best adaptation of the story, with Tim Burton's being a close second. The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is unquestionably the S-tier Halloween cartoon of all S-tier Halloween cartoons.
Stop! They have joined forces to smash us! Leave it to Luther!
If I had to sum up the Ed, Edd and Eddy Halloween special in one sentence, the Eds set out to get some treats, but instead find the Cankers turning tricks. Boo Ha Ha is a special where funny writing and creative animation save an otherwise lacking premise. Eddy gets a map from his older brother that supposedly leads to the best trick-or-treating spot in town. The Eds set out on their quest for candy and end up pissing off everyone they know. Seems pretty par for the course. Like I said, the story itself isn't anything special, but the execution is what really pulls it all together. Ed's trippy monster hallucinations are easily the standout of the episode. I know not everyone likes the later seasons of Ed, Edd and Eddy, but this show knew how to go all out when it wanted to. Sadly, the ending is a big detractor and almost risks ruining the entire thing. After pissing off everyone in the cul-de-sac, the Eds finally get to the house on the map where, surprise surprise, it turns out they're right back at Eddy's house. Yep, his brother tricked them into running around in circles just to have the neighborhood kids beat their asses. Again. This type of ending is typical for an 11-minute episode, but considering how much time they invested into this wild goose chase, this really feels like a letdown. Lackluster ending aside, I'm more than happy to put Boo Ha Ha in the B tier of animated Halloween specials. Before we move on to our final special, I'd like to give a quick dishonorable mention to a certain big-headed brat.
Mommy, look what Rosie did!
Caillou Loves Halloween is an ironic title for this episode. Seeing how it makes me hate Halloween and Caillou for celebrating it, Caillou ditches his sister to go trick-or-treating and then nearly chickens out at the first house. It's not the worst episode of Caillou, but it isn't doing him any favors either. The episode is only 3 minutes long, so I didn't think I should include it as a proper Halloween special. But if I did, it would easily be F tier. Now let's talk about what is arguably the most iconic Halloween special of the past 20 years. So yeah, if you grew up in the early 2000s, Scary Godmother Halloween Spooktacular was mandatory viewing. The animation was cheap, the story was paper thin, and everyone my age absolutely loved it. This was basically brain rot before brain rot, only this brain rot was made by actual animators. Not that any of them would openly admit it. The movie is about a girl named Hannah who's scared of monsters and ends up finding a secret portal to a monster Halloween party. The monsters introduce themselves and yeah, that's pretty much it. The whole movie is just Hannah meeting all the monsters at the party and realizing they're not as scary as she thought. That'd be fine for an 11-minute cartoon, but for an hour-long TV movie, the only real plot point is Hannah uses the monsters at the end to scare her mean cousin Jimmy and his friends. But that's about it. I know people who really love this movie, but I watched this special when it first aired on Cartoon Network, and I was bored out of my mind. The movie was meant to be the pilot for a future animated series, which sadly never came to fruition. They would, however, release a sequel 2 years later called Jimmy's Revenge, which, in my opinion, is a much better film. Jimmy decides to get revenge on Hannah for scaring him and sets out to ruin Halloween for everyone. His scheme works so well that he ends up erasing October 31st off the calendar. I love that in a world full of monsters, the bratty neighborhood bully is the villain. What's crazy is the first Scary Godmother was made by over 50 animators over the course of 8 months. Jimmy's Revenge was made by 14 animators in under 3 months. And it's insane they were able to make something this good so fast. Make no mistake, the animation still still looks like ass, but at least now there's an actual story with stakes and conflicts. Jimmy isn't just trying to ruin Halloween for Hannah, he's trying to kill the holiday altogether. The fate of Halloween itself is at stake. It isn't just an hour of characters standing around introducing themselves to each other. So I've decided I'm going to rank these movies separately. I'm putting Halloween Spooktacular in the B tier as basic Halloween fodder, but Jimmy's Revenge is a certified A tier classic. But wait, there's one more Halloween special I haven't talked about yet, and that is Rankin Bass's 1967 Mad Monster Party. This is the most bonkers, off-the-wall animated special I've ever seen, brought to you by the folks who made Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. My buddy Centennial just released an amazing video diving into the lore around this underground classic, so go check out his review and make sure to subscribe to his channel. Thank you to everyone who stuck around to the end of the video. Let me know in the comments what your favorite or least favorite Halloween special is. If there's a specific cartoon you want me to watch, top-tier patrons can commission a review from my channel. You can also become a channel member to get early access to all my uncensored videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all next time.
And I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day. If you can learn to work and play and get along with each other.